Hello everyone for today's video from SuperUnited Blitz Croatia 2025. We have round 1 of Blitz. We have Gukesh on white pieces faces Wesley So, the great player in a black pieces, shaking hand and start Gukesh with knight f3. We have d5, d3 as usual. Gukesh always play pretty opening. We saw c5, bishop g2, knight c6, and we have now d4, the reverse Grünfeld, and we have knight f6 and c4. D takes c4, and we have bishop on e3. This move is not good. Maybe so can play knight g4, attacking the white bishop. He played it, and bishop will come to the g5, I think. And the best move then for So to play f6. Bishop g5, attacking the queen, f6, h3, and maybe we will go to the very sharp position. So knight take the f2, and then he took the bishop. He won the pawn. Peter moved to maybe bring his knight to d2, then take on c4. And the position still equal. Instead, he played queen e4, pinning the knight, then bishop d7, and now Gukesh took the pawn on c4. C takes d4. And now 2 pawns more for black. 2 pawns. So knight b on d2 by Gukesh. Bishop e7. He can take the pawn maybe now. Knight take pawn on d4. Knight takes knight, queen takes knight, and we have bishop f6, and Gukesh play queen b4. Not allowed the black to castle. We have queen b6, want to exchange the queen. Of course, Gukesh will refuse. But where to go with the queen? After exchange the queen, a black will take the b2 pawn also. So Gukesh still thinking. Less than 3 minutes for Gukesh and more than 4 minutes for Wesley So on the clock. Gukesh in trouble. because the black bishop can bring his bishop to d4 and winning the rook. Now he exchanged finally the queen and played knight c4, protecting his b2 pawn. But now maybe he can kick the knight with bishop or with pawn on b5, and then he can play bishop d4, winning the exchange. b5. Of course, he will go with the knight to b6, attacking the rook and the bishop. Good move by Gukesh, and the position around to be equal. Rook d8, knight takes bishop. 2 minutes for Gukesh and 3.5 minutes for Wesley So. He is thinking if he can take the pawn or take the knight. Finally, he took the knight, and we have rook f3. And again, the position equal. One extra pawn for the black, but double pawn on g2 will do nothing. Now, if you take the pawn on b2, white can play rook b3. Instead, Wesley So play rook d2. Good move. Rook b3, and rook takes pawn on e2. Rook takes b5, and castled now by Wesley So. Rook takes pawn on b7. Now the black, he can attack the white king by bishop d4 check, and the rook can go to f2. Instead, he played bishop takes pawn on b2. Rook d1 by Gukesh. Also, he want to go to d7. And he not allow the black to go with his rook to f2, then take from d8, and will change one of the two rooks. Less than 1 minute for Gukesh and 2.5 minutes for Wesley So. He played bishop e5. He wants to take the pawn on g3. Also a good move. And then he will go with his rook to f2 for attacking the white king. Very dangerous attack will be if he can go with his rook to f2. Gukesh played bishop f1, kicking the rook, and he want to activate his bishop, maybe from c4. So rook take the pawn on a2, and bishop c4, rook a3, and bishop takes pawn on e6 with check, king h8, and we have rook b3. Want to exchange one rook and protect his pawn on g3. Rook takes rook, and bishop takes rook. We have bishop takes on g3. Now 2 pawn more for the black, but there is a opposite color bishop. If he can exchange the rook, the white will make draw. g6 by Gukesh, king g2, bishop e5, and the bishop d5, and the black king cannot come because the rook on the d2 not allowed him to come, and the bishop on e6 also. Rook c6 and bishop d5. Rook check from c2. King came to f1. How to win this position? It is very difficult for Wesley So to win. 6 seconds for Gukesh and 1.5 minutes for Wesley So on the clock. Rook d2 and bishop e6 want to exchange the rook. Of course, Wesley So will refuse. He want to win this position. If he exchanges the rook, very difficult to win with the opposite color bishop. Trying to kick the white bishop and to come with his king. So rook f7 by Gukesh, and bishop came to e7. He want to exchange the rook from f8. .5 seconds for Gukesh, 1 minute for Wesley So. Gukesh under the time pressure. Wesley So still trying. Now he played h5 and bishop d5, rook check from c2 again, king to f1, and the position is equal. Rook check from c1 and king came to g2. No progress. Rook e1, bishop c4, rook e3, rook of 3. Again he refused the exchange rook, and rook came again to f7. So what to do? Repeating the move. And finally, he succeed to bring his bishop to f6. Maybe he can come with his king finally to the g7, rook d7, and no dangerous discover check. And the king finally came to f6, rook check from f7, and bishop d3, attacking the pawn on g6. Finally, Gukesh takes the pawn on g6, and he will take the pawn on h5. And he took the pawn. He touched, and he have to move with bishop. He touched the pawn on h5 and he is forced to take the pawn, and then he lost his bishop and lost the game, unfortunately. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Don't forget, like, subscribe. Goodbye.